Hi guys, this is Adam L here with Adam L Photography and Okinawa Vision. And today what we're going to be doing is looking a little bit at Lightroom 5. In particular, I'm going to take a raw image of a sunset over the bay out the front of my house that I took a couple of weeks ago, and just show you what I would do in Lightroom to punch that image up a little bit. I'm not sure if you're not aware, when you shoot in RAW format you get a lot more detail and data inside the file itself. However, there's no compression placed on the file, so it comes out looking very washed out and lacking in color, vibrancy and contrast. So I'm going to go into Lightroom now and show you how I would tweak this image just to make it a little bit more interesting. Alright. Okay, so looking down at this photo now, we can see we've got this this lovely wide shot of a couple of fishermen on a bay, lots of clouds in the sky. Looks like there's plenty of detail in the shot. This was shot on my D800, and just looking at the specs, this was at 1/200th of a second, f5, ISO 360 at 150mm. That was using my 150 to 600mm. I think I was actually down there to shoot some photos of some birds at the time and snag this photo. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what I will do in Lightroom. Let's just get rid of that. Show you what I would do in Lightroom itself to tweak this image to make it a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to go through using the sliders, as you can see over here, because I don't want to just hit it with a preset which I have and show you the end result, but rather show you how I get to my end result. So let's start off by adding a little bit of contrast to this photo. Now you'll notice that when I pump up the contrast here, you see that the clouds, especially this large cloud here, really comes to life as you punch that contrast in. You also see that the reflections on the water start getting a little bit more dynamic. Now I'm going to really make this photo quite contrasty. I'm going to put that up to plus around 41. These numbers of course are just averaged out based on how it looks to me on the computer screen. I don't really have a set rule for this. Now just what I want to do next is just bring down some of those highlights. So I'm going to drop down the highlights meter here a little bit. I like the shadows where they are, so I'm going to leave those as they are. I might drop the whites down just a little bit as well, add a little bit more dynamic there, and I'm going to just basically punch out those blacks to make these lines here and the silhouette of this headland a little bit more sharp and dynamic. Now from here, instead of hitting this the saturation, what I'm going to do is just pump up the vibrancy a little bit. As you can see, when I pump up the vibrancy a little bit, I get a little bit more color detail here through the sky. It's a little bit more impactful. Now next what we're going to do is we're going to come down here towards where we see our HSL color in black and white. Now right now I'm going to look at my hue, saturation and luminous. Starting with the luminous, what I want to do is just make these blues a little bit sharper and darker. So there's two ways you can do this. One, you could just use your sliders and you could drop the luminous down or up on certain color frames. So if I do that with, say, the blue, you'll notice it attacks the blues a lot better. But if you want to do a slightly different way, you can come over here and click this wheel, find the color that you want to isolate, click and just drag up or down to essentially brighten or lighten just that color zone. So what I'm going to do is right now it's attacking the greens predominantly. I want to add a little bit of blue in there myself, so I'm going to drop down the blues a little bit just to punch those clouds up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to come over to my saturation tab now and just put a little bit extra color in, especially in that aqua as well, just to punch up those a little bit. Now also the magenta, I wouldn't mind bringing out a little bit more of that purple that's in there, so let's just increase those colors just like that a little bit. Now, one of the problems you'll notice with this photo is that there's no real center of focus. I mean, this is not really one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. It's far from it, but it's a good one to show how I would edit a little bit with Lightroom. And like you can see now, is you've got this very bright sky up here, and your eye really should want to go here, but for some reason it's going up here because I think it's too bright. So I'm going to come over here to my graduation filter, give that one a click. And just so I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to drop that exposure right down to -4 so I can get an idea of where my graduation filter is going to sit. Okay, and somewhere about there. And then I'll just bring that back up a little bit just to add that little bit more dynamic sort of feeling to the sky. I might even just warm that up a bit and give it more of a intense sort of sunset look. Now some people will frown upon this kind of editing, saying that it's you know, you're not staying true, it should be in camera and all that sort of stuff, and to them I say whatever. You know, do what you want to do with your photography. Don't feel obligated to follow rules that someone else put in place. So now to me that looks a little bit more interesting. Now just for the last point, just so I can really draw the eye into that into this area here, all I'm going to do is add a little bit of a vignette, feather that out a little bit, and then to make the photo look a little bit more interesting for me, I'm going to just change the crop to about there, make it a bit more of a panoramic. And there we have what I would probably do to this image. I may even actually, sorry, it's just a little bit dark, I might just even slightly boost that up a bit and ever so slightly warm it or cool it. What to do? Yeah, maybe just put a little bit more tint in there, just add a little bit more purple to it. There we go. So that's what I would probably do to this image. Now, like I said before, this is not one of my keeper images. This is not something that I would like to post online. This is just one of the frames I took, and I decided it was a good throwaway to use for this tutorial. And so you can see the detail that comes off of that D800 is fantastic. So that's what I would do in Lightroom. Now, the other thing you can do here as well, if you wanted to, is you could play around with the tone curve to give you a little bit more contrast. So what you do is give it a slight S. So you might want to do something along those lines, and then you'll get just that darker, sharper contrast, just a little bit. Like with anything, if you overdo it, it's going to look overcooked and overdone. Something like that changes the shot up. So to show you what it would look like, that's straight out of camera, and that's how I would finish it up with the editing. So there's my quick little tutorial on how I would punch up photos just using the sliders in Lightroom 5. So if you like this video, there'll be more coming. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments. Like, subscribe, enjoy. Happy shooting. Adam L.